Tony the Tiger's cousin, I can only assume a birth name, comes at me earlier today and says, if Clemson keeps regressing and they never win another title, does it tarnish Dabo Swinney's legacy to you? Now, I welcome your feedback. I welcome your questions. I looked at this one, and in my mind, I heard the whole, but then I read it again. I said, maybe I'm missing something, because the other day I had a very, very what I thought was popular take that none of you agreed with. So, hey, maybe a lot of you agree that if Dabo never wins another title, it tarnishes his legacy. I cannot possibly pick up what you're putting down there. I can't personally. If there were, like off-field scandal, that's the kind of thing that could tarnish a legacy. But short of that, first off, let me tell you what Dabo's legacy is to me. He built Clemson into a Tier 1 program. Clemson was not a Tier 1 program in my childhood, in my adolescence, and then he built Clemson into a Tier 1 program. I don't want to just gloss over that, because hardly anyone does that. You can count very quickly on one hand in your lifetime, unless you're 90, how many coaches have gone to a place that you wouldn't already consider premier, Tier 1, blue blood, whatever you want to call it, and then he turned it into that. So he did that. He went toe-to-toe with Nick Saban at the apex of Saban's dynasty and went 2 out of 3 against him in national championship settings. Who else is saying that? No one else is saying that. He built a championship culture and did it as a first-time head coach. Again, we gloss over that because you got conditioned to it. You got used to it. That's his legacy. Our buddy Scott Van Pelt actually put it best. Once upon a time, there was that phrase. It was called clemsoning. It was a term. It was called clemsoning. Clemsoning meant not being able to walk and chew gum at the same time. Clemsoning once upon a time meant not being able to get out of your own way. And when it's within grasp, you reach, and then someone in the rafters pulls the belt out from your reach. That was clemsoning. And he said, hey, I define Dabo's legacy by the fact that he redefined clemsoning. Yeah, that's a very, very good way to state it. The average person, I'm just going to put it to you like this. The average person, I don't think, has any idea what it just takes to stand out from the pack. So take the most competitive fields. It could be college football. It could be college football coaching, professional athleticism of any kind. I know that the attention gets drawn to the best of the best. And then the conversation broadens to talk about whether someone is or isn't in the group of the best of the best. I've always wished that I could take everyone who watches or listens to the show and just take you to Clemson, take you to Florida, take you to LSU, take you to Oregon, just let you in, let you see behind the curtain, let you see how massive these operations are, but also let you see how littered the road to those places is with failed coaches and players who couldn't even get an offer there, much less stand out once they got there. And then you look at the higher level, the professional level. Like I'm telling you, there are thousands, tens of thousands of people trying to do what these dudes are doing, players and coaches. Just to get your head above the pack takes an ultra special effort. Just to get your head above the pack, just to make it such that someone looks and says, oh, there's Dabo Swinney. Just to be that is incredibly rare. To go to a place that was above average at best, and then to have never done it before, have never been a coordinator before, and all of a sudden they say, yeah, you're our guy. Have the nation laugh, by the way, in the process, and then to find a way to develop your own way. They did it at Clemson a different way than anyone else had done it. I don't care if you like it or don't like it. I don't care if you mocked it or you admired it. They did it a different way. They developed their own way at Clemson. And so, I talk to kids who go on official visits there. The ones who didn't commit that say, Clemson's pretty special. It's a little different there than any place else. That stuff is so hard. It's so hard to do. And so then you win championships. You get to the apex. You don't flirt with it. You don't get close to it. You get there. You go against Bama in 15 and you barely lose. You beat them in 16. You're in the mix again in 17 in what should have been a transition year. You win it again in 18. You have beaten Nick Saban 2 times in 3 years at the very best that Nick Saban was in the mid-20 teens. Those rosters were loaded. The 2016 Alabama roster was loaded. Just standing out from the pack is unique. Doing what he did there, to me, is like Hall of Fame, into the greatest college coaches of all time conversation. In the conversation now. I'm not saying number one, but in the conversation. So I know what the comment section is going to say. Let me spare you the effort, although I still welcome you and your comments. But what if he doesn't evolve, Josh? Because that was the spirit of the question. That's been the spirit of the conversation, and I've participated in it. around Dabo Swinney. Yes, he won in the 20 teens, but what if he doesn't evolve? Then he doesn't evolve is the answer. If Dabo doesn't change a thing about himself, and let's just say Clemson gets left in the dust because they haven't embraced the new mechanisms of talent acquisition that have been afforded to you in the modern age of college football. Let's say all that's true. Let's say worst case scenario comes to fruition in terms of people being scared Clemson's going to fall behind. That's what happens. That's the answer to it. Okay, that's where I put the period at the end of the sentence. Clemson will just go from being a good to great team any given year to a pretty good team any given year. Either that or Dabo Swinney will say, this is not for me anymore. But you got to understand, at least the way I look at this, the difference in the context. You look throughout college football history, there's some guys, there's some coaches who have been at the top of the game. Maybe they've been a championship caliber head coach. And then for whatever reason, the game started to change. Offense started to change. Defense started to change. And they just dug their heels in. They got to a certain point. They said, this is me. This is how I do things. I'm rooted in concrete now. I'm not changing. I'm not evolving. And they became dinosaurs. That's happened before. Please understand, whether you agree with Dabo Swinney's approach or not, this is totally different. This isn't refusing to evolve because you're incapable of it. It's a principled stance. I have longed for him to come off that stance. I've talked about it on this show, but then I've always followed it up. And some people get tired of me saying it, but I've always followed it up by saying it doesn't matter what I think, because the dude has long since earned the right to run his program however he wants to. And he's also earned the right to, in my mind, and I know good and well in his mind, say, you know, we get praised for what we did in the 20 teens, and we won these championships, and we had these double-digit win seasons, and we had these first-round draft picks and whatnot. But the thing about it is, I'm only guilty now of clinging to the same principles that got us to where we were. So maybe you have to extend it out from football to understand what that means. Imagine believing in something. Imagine adhering to a set of principles or values that brought you great success, great reward. And you viewed it as different than mechanisms of your industry changing. Okay, these are foundational to you. These are your values. They're non-negotiables. And imagine, for whatever reason, your industry, your sector starts to evolve, and those sorts of things start to become negotiable or even acceptable. And you just say, no. In Dabo Swinney's case, so far that's been the portal. It's been a resistance to doing what other programs are doing. It aggravates me sometimes because I think Clemson could be better if they use it. It aggravates Clemson fans sometimes. It aggravates outsiders sometimes because they look and they say, what's wrong with this guy? Why won't he evolve? Well, it's easy, I think, for outsiders to say that because they're not inside. It's easy for outsiders to say it because they didn't build it. So to answer the question, absolutely not. It doesn't tarnish his legacy. I don't care if he retires today. His legacy's set. To me, the only thing that erodes at Dabo Swinney's legacy is scandal of some kind. It's got to be an off-the-field thing. So I don't know where it came from. I do not know where the question came from. I welcome it. It's good discussion. But, yeah, you're not drawing me in on the tarnishing one's legacy because, again, this is different. And first off, even if it was just offense evolves and he doesn't get on board with it, that'd still not take away from what he did in the 20 teens. This kind of refusal or resistance is a little bit different than the kind of resistance we've seen in the past.